I've never been Lance Stroll's biggest fan. I can't say I've really rated him as a driver, although he has had a few standout performances. His qualifying in Turkey in 2020 stands out to me, when he put it on pole position in really wet conditions. He did drop back in the race, struggling on the tyres when the track started to dry, but that pole lap was an indication that he does have natural ability. He's had a few podiums with Racing Point as well, most notably the third place finish at the 2020 Italian Grand Prix at Monza. He did also get a third place finish at the Sakhir Grand Prix that same year, the one where George Russell was filling in for Lewis Hamilton. You may remember that George Russell and Mercedes had a bit of a nightmare, as well as Valtteri Bottas, and it was Perez that won the race. Perez, who dropped to last place on the very first lap, and then still came back to win the race ahead of his teammate. So I'm not sure how much credit we can give Lance Stroll for that one. All of that aside, what you will likely know by now is that before pre-season testing, Lance had an accident while cycling. What we didn't know at the time was the extent of his injuries. Felipe Drugovich took over for pre-season testing, but the team were relatively quiet on the whole matter. It was very much work as normal. Lance put out a statement saying he was doing everything to get fit, and that was that. Rumours came out that he'd left a clinic in a cast on one of his arms. And well, if you've broken a bone, the chances of being ready for an F1 race in less than 2 weeks, it's pretty much impossible. Or is it? Now the first race is over and done with, and Lance finished an admirable 6th place, we have a lot more information on exactly what his injuries were. It seems now that race is done, Lance is more comfortable in sharing this information. He posted a statement on his Instagram alongside a video of his recovery, and honestly, it was far worse than we could have imagined. The fact he was even able to get into the car is impressive, let alone doing a full race distance. I'm not going to read out his statement in its entirety, but Lance had a fracture and displacement in his right wrist, as well as a fracture in his left wrist, a partial fracture in his left hand, as well as another fracture in his big toe on his right foot. That's a total of 4 fractures. You only had to see images and footage of him at the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend to know he wasn't right. He was walking very gingerly, and he needed assistance getting in and out of the car. Originally, Lance was told he would absolutely miss the first few races, but he visited a specialist called Dr. Javier Mir, who successfully operated on Lance's right wrist. He was told he may be able to make it back for Jeddah, which is the second race, but Bahrain would be a very faint possibility. He did in fact have to wear a cast, but he said that after the cast came off on day 4, the chance of him racing at Bahrain became a real reality. He went through a lot of rehab in a very short space of time to get ready for Bahrain, and I've no doubt he was in immense pain. Driving an F1 car is obviously not an easy thing, even for the fittest of drivers. The G-forces experienced are only really comparable to the forces fighter pilots reach. Not only that, but circuits are not buttery smooth, and curbs most certainly aren't. There is no doubt Lance was in a lot of pain at varying points during the race, and he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for even getting there and taking part. While this is all to be applauded, I do hope that Lance hasn't made a mistake trying to force his return too soon. Only time will tell. But he only had surgery on one of his wrists, with the other fractures requiring time to heal. Of course, he had resting time before the first race, but 2 weeks, or barely even that, isn't a great deal of time to get back to full health. With things like this, trying to do too much too soon can absolutely make matters worse and take you backwards. But I've no doubt he had all the medical staff available telling him and advising him on the best course of action. I can barely fight off a cold, so what do I know? Aston Martin genuinely have a really fast car this season, and it was a shame to see Lance having his accident, because I really wanted to see what he could do against Fernando Alonso at full strength. Now Fernando has started so strong, he's going to be a very tough train to stop, even when Lance is up to 100%. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. While you're here, why not check out some of these other videos? And I'll catch you next time.